All right, this is Bob with Digital Sparks Marketing, and as you guys know, I like to talk to industry leaders, people who have been there, done that in the trenches. And today I have a very special guest, Juanika. Welcome.
Nice to
Sorry,
meet you,
did I
Bob.
butcher your name?
No, you're
After
fine.
practicing 3 times, I butchered your name. Thank
I'm
God.
used to having a name that gets butchered often.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but Juanika's perfect.
So this is great because one of the things I want to talk to you about, and
Uh-huh.
this is what you do, is influencer marketing. So can you tell us the state of influencer marketing? Because to me, it looks like everyone and their dog is an influencer marketer these days. What's your thoughts on it?
So I love influence marketing because it gives you a position to put yourself in front of people that you wouldn't necessarily meet otherwise
Yeah.
if you didn't necessarily have those people
Yeah.
that had the feeling from your target audience. So what I mean by that is a lot of times when you want customers to do business with you, first they must feel like they like you,
Right.
they must feel like they know you, and then they must feel like they can trust you.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get that entryway into a brand new cold customer.
Right.
You're not going to get that entryway into your cold market. So what an influence marketer will do is automatically bridge that gap. They have a following that follows them on a regular basis. They feel like they know them. They feel
Right.
like they like them. They feel like
Right.
they can trust them.
So
So it gives you leverage.
how important is influencer marketing? Should companies, only the large companies, able to take advantage of it, or even small, mid-sized companies can do it?
Everyone from the individual entrepreneur
Yeah.
to the massive company should take advantage of influence marketing. The reason for that is because it's the only way that you're going to get in front of an audience that you wouldn't necessarily know about. So for instance, if you were an entrepreneur and
Yeah.
you had a specific following, but your audience is interested in anything other than you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't necessarily reach that audience because they're not automatically following you.
Right.
But if you reach out to an influencer that has the attention of that audience,
Yeah.
you can automatically pull them in.
Got it.
Automatically pull them in.
So, how do you go about looking for the right influencers who match your company, your brand, your philosophies, principles? How do you go about it?
The key is really knowing your audience. If you
Okay.
know what your audience is interested in, if you know what your audience looks for on social media, if you know what your audience does in their free time,
Yeah.
if you know more about the family life of your audience, the demographics of your audience, you can look up those things. I use the ads manager on Facebook. There's an audience insights tool that's in there that'll tell you anything that you would need to know about your target audience.
Right.
If you have a little bit of information about them, it will automatically make the connections for you. You can
Okay.
see their interests, and based on their interests, you can position yourself in front of influencers in industries outside of the one that you're dealing with yourself.
Got it. So one of the things I've noticed is with influencer marketing is there are too many communication. Like some influencers get too many messages.
Right.
What is the right amount of communication to select the influencers and then keep them retained with your brand?
So what you want to do is you want to also study your influencers just as much as you study your target audience. The reason for that is you want to see how much engagement they have with the target audience,
Right.
and then you can see how much they post on a regular basis.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you have the right percentage of your information on their posts so that you don't want to seem salesy.
Right.
You want to invite people in to use your product or service. You don't
Right.
want to push your product or service. So one thing that you can ask your influencer is, what's the hot button
Right.
for your target audience?
Right.
What are the main needs for your target audience? What does your target audience complain about the most? What
Right.
are they interested in you the most for?
Right.
And if you get that answer, you can position your content to make sure that you're giving the audience what they need. And if you give the audience the right type of content, you don't constantly have to bombard them through the
Got it.
influencer.
So now here's one question.
Uh-huh.
How much in terms of budget you should allocate to influencer marketing? Because we all know the budget for acquisition, right? Like this is how much you should spend on paid search. But how about influencer marketing? What's the right budget if there is?
So it's actually based on the influencer.
Okay.
A lot of times, if you're a small business or even a large business, you may be more beneficial reaching out to a micro influencer
Okay.
because it feels like there's more of a trust factor with those individuals. So that target audience may actually be more attracted to someone that feels like they look like them
Yeah.
and they are a little bit more interactive with them. And that way your budget can be as small as you need it to be. Micro influencers may charge you $10 a day to run an ad on their page. They may charge you $27 a day to run an ad on their page. I know that there are, influencers out there that will run an ad for a day that have 150,000 followers that will run an ad for a day for $200.
You're right, right.
So whatever it is that you feel like you need to get in front of the audience, measure your audience size, measure the level of engagement that that influencer has with your audience, and then kind of gauge what it's worth from there.
So what is the ethical part of this? The reason is like for example, I have a 9-year-old daughter, right? And she watches this YouTube influencer, and this YouTube influencer, she's 11, but she sells all kinds of clothes from Justice and all these clothing companies. And there is nowhere it says discloses what she's doing.
Yeah.
But actually kids at 9 years of age and 8 are so influenced. So what is the ethical boundary?
I would say that you have to decide from a personal standpoint what your ethical boundaries are, and then figure out from there who's the type of person that you want to work with.
Okay.
You don't want to be on a page in general that automatically pushes a bunch of ads out to people, because then you'll seem just as salesy as everyone else.
Right.
So you want to find that influencer that has the interaction with people, that is going deep into their comments, and they're responding to people, they're answering their direct messages, they're having conversations with people. Pay attention to the live feeds, because when people get on your live feeds, they have the opportunity to speak to you. They type a message and they expect you to respond. So I would do some research on the influencer first to make sure that they're actually responding and interacting with their audience versus just being pushy and salesy.
But do they have to put a link somewhere that this is a sponsored and things like that? What is the boundary for
They
that?
should. It's actually legally they should. Legally they should. A lot of times they don't. Normally, because if you do something that's going to be replayed over and over and over again, like a YouTube video, you should put it in the comments somewhere. But it's a difference between a sponsored ad and a shout out. If you're just shouting somebody out and you're saying, hey, I think that this is great, you should take a look at this, that's something that you're not necessarily getting paid for. So if you're being paid to sponsor an ad, ethically you should definitely let people know.
Any tools do you recommend for people to go about finding influencers? Are there any tools that you like?
So I use the ads manager because I want to do my own research on an influencer to make sure that they fit my audience and that they're ethically the type of person that I would want to work with. There are a number of tools out there that I think are great, but I don't think they give you the right amount of research on the person that you would want. Because the biggest thing you can do to be successful is make sure that you have your target correct. So if you work with an influencer that isn't ethically representing your target correctly, you're wasting money. And
one final question, and I'll let you go. But what are some of the metrics you should measure with influencer marketing?
You definitely want to measure the level of engagement. There's a quantity that we use, and it's actually a range that you can use. It's called the average rate of engagement. And what it is, it's the number of likes plus the number of comments divided by the number of followers that you have.
All right. So number of likes.
Plus the number of comments.
Plus number of comments
divided by the number of followers. Yes. And the reason why that's important is because you can have a lot of likes, you can have a lot of comments, or you can have a lot of followers. But if your followers aren't liking and commenting, then it means absolutely nothing, because the engagement isn't there. You also want to measure your customer experience. If you're working with influencers and they're not returning actual stories, people want to feel some level of authenticity when they're dealing with products and services. So if they're not returning real stories that say, hey, this was my experience with the product or service, or I felt this way when I used the product or service, then you don't have the testimonials that you need to continue to push your business forward. So I would definitely measure the level of the customer satisfaction and the custer experience.
This is great. So Juanika, how can my people reach you? What's
so
your
you guys can email me at info@theladypreneur.com. You can also follow me on all social media channels. On Instagram, I'm at Ladypreneur, and on everything else, I'm at I am Ladypreneur. Feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'll be happy to get back in contact with you guys. Thank you so much for your time, Bob.
This is great. Thank you.
Definitely.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining. I thought you learned quite a bit, but thank you for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.